Hey guys, welcome to another video on Amantex AI Academy. This is Asif. Today we'll be discussing something which is often debated and discussed, but many people don't have clarity on what it's all about, the AI bubble. So what's the AI bubble per se? You must have heard this term a lot, that currently all AI companies are overrated, they are overpriced, and the AI bubble can burst at any moment, and the complete the economy is going to crash. Or at least the AI economy is going to crash. Things will all go kaput and things like that. So and often people compare the AI bubble to various other things that have happened in the past, like the dot-com bubble, the Web 3.0 bubble, and the cloud bubble, and so on. So there have always been advent of new technologies, and along with the technology, there's always been a lot of hype and a lot of misrepresentation of what it can actually do. So in the past, there has been the dot-com bubble, there has been the cloud bubble, Web 2.0. There's been the Web 3.0 bubble. I mean, I think this had a smaller impact per se. It came and went, and probably the blockchain and the Bitcoin and all of that. Bitcoin is pretty popular even today, but the blockchain, where they, people have a tendency that when there's a new technology, I mean, there's something they learn, they treat it like a hammer, and everything starts looking like a nail. So you start applying the same solution for every problem, whether there's a problem in the first place or not, and whether your solution is the right fit for that problem or not. People start applying it everywhere. So blockchain has been one of those misused or overused technology stacks that people have tried to use on practically every platform. We had, I think, even e-commerce websites being built with claimed blockchain technology and so on, whereas it has absolutely no relevance to something like e-commerce. But anyway, so all of these different technology stacks, there was hype, there was, and all of that hype translated into peaks and falls on the stock market. So you had people investing in these companies, those companies being overvalued, and then a crash as expected after the initial hype fades away, and then people lose a lot of money on the companies that they invested in, because many of them turned out to be fake. They are just promises and nothing real, nothing substantial, and all that. Now, coming to the AI bubble. So, what is the AI bubble? There is obviously definitely a lot of hype. Definitely, that's for sure. There is a lot of hype. There are claims that AI can do a lot of things, and often over representation using videos, images, and all of that. That presentations, pretty fancy presentations, that AI can do a lot of things which it can't do right now. So there is hype, absolutely fine, correct. There is overvaluation. So many AI companies are overvalued. That's also true. But this is standard, right? This is the norm for any new tech stack. There is hype around it. There is overvaluation. These are all pretty standard things. But let's boil it down to reality. What's true and what's not? Can AI do all the various things that people say it can do? Can it process data? Can it process sound? Can it talk to you? Can it respond to your queries? Can it answer? Can it do a business analysis? And the answer is yes, it can. So AI as a technology is not fake, it is real. It can do most of the things that people say it can do, I mean, barring a few exaggerated claims. But in general, most of the things that people say AI can do, it can do. So AI per se by itself is something real. It's here. We are working with it, and it's growing at an exponential rate. So it's growing exponentially quick. We have new models coming out at pretty regular intervals. Yeah, because of the pricing, because of investments, a lot of people have invested a lot of money in these technology companies, and you are getting fantastic results. That's all one side. So, what we want to say is, number one, AI is real. AI can actually do the things that people are marketing or people are talking about. It can be done. So where does the bubble come in? Is it just the hype and overvaluation, or is there something else which is actually feeding that bubble? And the answer is there is a bubble, and the hidden cost of the bubble is the cost of inference. Inference is a term used in AI to calculate, or just to represent a single flow of responses. So you give a prompt and you get a response. This chain, this flow is called inference, where AI will accept a prompt and will give you a response on that particular prompt. Now, the cost of inference is what's driving the discussion of the AI bubble. So, other than the hype, other than overvaluation, which is pretty standard, this is the real hidden aspect of. I mean, it's not hidden for people who are in the industry, but for most common people, this is pretty much hidden because the companies that are providing inference or providing these AI solutions, they are hiding the cost, and that's where the bubble comes in. That's where the minute this cost actually becomes transparent, people actually need to pay for what they are using. It's going to have a lot of cascading effects. So let's dive deeper into this cost of inference aspect. Now, what is the cost of inference, or what do we even mean when we say there's a hidden cost of inference? So basically, ChatGPT.com, Gemini, Claude, all of these websites, they offer these various plans where you can subscribe and you can start using these websites, and they can process text. You can paste images. You can generate images. You can generate videos. You can upload your documents. You can do so many different things with these websites. But at the end of the day, all of these options that we are using from these websites, they cost money. There is a cost associated with everything that we do on these websites. So there are two types of users that these websites or these inference providers have. So inference providers basically something like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, because they allow applications, people who want to use AI, they can take subscriptions from these inference providers, these AI providers, and then they can use them in their own application, own software, and so on. So coming back, the cost of inference. So now what ChatGPT and all these websites do is they give you a selection of models. So you can always choose when I want to do some task, which model I want to use. And models have different prices. Some models are cheap, some are expensive. We have a separate video where we discuss all this in detail, but just as a very quick summary. So models have different prices. Now, if I go to chatgpt.com and I have taken a general user subscription, so let's look at how much it costs to take a subscription on chatgpt.com. Um, so I take a general user subscription for say $20 a month, and I start using it. Now, say I have a question. I want to calculate 1 plus 1. Fine. Since I have a subscription and I have the choice to choose any model I want from the ChatGPT's range of models, I will always choose the most expensive model, because I always would feel that my problem is the most difficult problem in the world, right? It may be the simplest problem in the world, but I always feel, since it's my problem, is the most complex problem in the world, I need the best AI model working on it. I cannot use a cheaper model, right? So say for example, in the case of Anthropic offers three models: Haiku, which is the smallest one; Sonnet, which is the mid-level; and Opus, which is their extreme, like the pro model, the super complex, for super complex tasks. And I want to create a table of 2 times 2. So I want to create a table for my child, showing the 2 times table. And now, which model will I choose? Since I'm paying subscription fees and the cost of all the models is the same for me, I would choose Opus, because my problem is the most complex problem in the world. So I would choose Opus to do a simple 2 times table to be generated and shown on the screen. And that's where, if you think about it, who's paying that cost? So I'm using the most expensive model ChatGPT or Gemini or Anthropic is offering, and I'm paying a small fraction of the actual usage cost of that model. So all of these prices that we see here, they are heavily subsidized. And I'll just come to the another aspect of it where ChatGPT does expose what kind of pricing they have on their APIs. Um, let's look at the ChatGPT. API pricing. Now, what is the API? We'll come to it in a couple of minutes, but just very quickly, showing you the pricing for a ChatGPT API. Now, the ChatGPT 5, which is the model we use most often, at an API level, costs $10 for a million tokens. Now, you may ask, what is a token? Again, we have a separate video, but in general, you can think of a token as in 1 million tokens is about 5 MB of text. Uh, so, so 5 million characters of text, and it may sound a lot, but when we are using ChatGPT, you will often see that when you type a small question, you get a large response. The response probably will run into pages for many things that we ask. You may ask, say, please write a poem on a particular topic, or please write an article on this particular subject. So usually, our inputs are much smaller than the output that is generated by ChatGPT. So the pricing for the models is cheaper for input, but it's much more expensive for output. So, for example, in the case of ChatGPT, it is costing us $10 for a million tokens for output. Now, across the period of a month, an average user will probably hit this limit. So, 1 million tokens, about 5 MB of text generated from the model. If you're using it, pretty actively, you will hit this limit pretty quickly. So if you were to actually pay just the API cost that ChatGPT itself publishes, you will see a very clear difference between the actual cost of using ChatGPT versus the actual price, or the price that I'm paying for the subscription. I'm paying just $10 or $20. I'm just paying $20, but in a month I may use maybe $60 to $100 or worth of API inference for that price that I paid. Now, I always feel that I got a fantastic deal, but at the same time, this is what's driving the AI bubble. So people who are investing in AI companies need to keep this in mind, that if the AI company is relying on the cost of inference being flat, or the cost of inference coming down over time, there is, I would associate a huge amount of risk to that company, because they have not taken into account the fact that over a period of time, this model is not sustainable. You cannot sustain. So when we say that I am getting $60 or $50 of inference by paying $20 as the price of the subscription, where does the rest of the amount come from? So the rest of the amount is coming from investors. People who have invested in ChatGPT are the guys who are bearing that brunt of all of this extra usage. And I'm just one user. ChatGPT has millions of users. So there is millions and millions of dollars being spent of investor money to give us all of these features that we want to use. For the free users, even for the paid users, we are not paying the actual cost of the inference which is there on which we are using on these websites. And that's basically, they want to make it popular. They have, there is a business model that they follow. That's all fine. But what we should know is, as far as inference goes, there is a bubble. And what's driving the bubble is this fact that people are using investor money to subsidize the cost of inference for all of their users. And this investor money is not endless. It's going to stop, right? So some people may have invested today. They may say, I want my returns after 3 years. Some may say, I want my returns after 5 years. I'm willing to wait for 5 years for my investments to bear fruit. But after 3 to 5 years, people are start going to asking for their returns on whatever amounts they've invested in these companies. And that's when you start seeing a transition from these $20 plans to maybe $50 or $100 plans. And once that transition happens, there are only two options possible. Either people are forced to choose cheaper and smaller models, which are cheaper, or they are expected to pay higher. And I think, we have seen ChatGPT experimenting with various pricing, $100 plans, $200 plans, and all that, and they have not been very successful in per se. So we aren't sure whether that steep hike in price over a span of the next 3 to 5 years, what's going to happen. Whether ChatGPT can sustain the kind of subscription it has today based on that price. If you just look at it from one more perspective, like just look at published numbers. So ChatGPT.com publishes the numbers. Anthropic the developers of the Claude models, they publish their numbers. And what we can see, they are both private companies at the moment, so they aren't publicly listed. You can't invest in these companies. But there are a lot of public companies that depend on these companies. So, say for example, tomorrow ChatGPT was to hike its pricing from $10 to $20. The companies that are dependent on the API pricing of ChatGPT, they would be impacted, right? So, coming back here, we have ChatGPT itself generating losses around of there is like they're expected to generate losses up to $44 billion before there's anything. I mean, becoming profitable is going to be a challenge if the current trend continues, because the current trend is people think that if I'm paying some amount for a model today, as technology progresses, the price of that model will come down. The models will get cheaper. But that's not exactly true, because as technology progresses, models become smarter and they need more processing power, they need more memory. Uh, so the models become more and more complex as time progresses. So the complexity of these models keeps increasing over time. The cost to run them keeps increasing over time. And people will always select the best model available as long as they can. If they have the choice, people will always select the most expensive model as part of their subscription. So, so the bubble is driven by all of this. And then what you have is you have the downstream. So the downstream is I build a product tomorrow, and my product is using the ChatGPT APIs to offer fantastic AI features to my customers. But what I do is, just because I want to give choice, give my customers the choice to choose which models they can choose. And there are some products, of course, which offer all of these choices. Many coding agents like Cursor, Windsurf, they offer the choice of choosing your own models. Um, so when you offer the choice and customers keep choosing the most expensive model all the time, now as the model price increases, you are left with either reducing the quality which you are offering to your customers, and that's going to turn the customers away, or raising the price of your products, which is something companies like Cursor have been dealing with a lot, as they keep hiking their prices based on because they are downstream. As providers raise the prices, they need to, and then people complain that, okay, we took a plan from Cursor, and the plan is becoming too expensive now. We aren't getting value for money. But all of this is driven by the actual cost of inference, and the actual cost of inference in one way, the cost of inference is hidden by the investor money. On the other side, the actual cost of inference too, where you have your hardware and servers and employees and everything, you're running a company, right? That there is inflation on that side too, because the cost of people working in the AI space at the moment is severely overvalued, right? You have people being paid millions and millions or hundreds of millions of dollars per annum as employees, as salaries, and again, all of this trickles down into the cost of offering the services for keeping the company afloat. So if you're going to keep the company afloat with all of these multi-million dollar salaries, someone has to pay for it. That someone can be the investor for some span of time, but at the end of the day, you need to have a profit. To have a profitable company, you need customers. You need people who will pay for your services. Uh, so ChatGPT definitely has gone down the right track. They are offering services. They have a very nice bouquet of services. But the problem here is the price at which they're offering the services today is not sustainable over the next few years. Same thing for every other AI provider who is giving you the option to uh, choose which model you want to use. Now, what about AI software which doesn't have an option for choosing a model? Something like Lovable or Replit. And these models are interesting because they don't give you the choice. You would have you can use software like Lovable, Replit, and they will help you generate an application. You don't see which model they're using, so they could use a cheaper model as long as the quality was more or less what you expect. These companies are probably, I wouldn't say they're not affected by the AI bubble, but the impact to which they would be affected is much lesser than the companies that are leading the bubble, which is those which give you the choice of models and all of that. So this is another interesting aspect. Companies that depend on the cost of inference to be flat, or they depend on the cost of inference to go down over time, they are at they are a huge risk. And anybody investing in these companies needs to keep in mind what's the sustainable period for this company. For example, for a large company like OpenAI, they even if funding was to end tomorrow, they aren't going to shut down soon, right? They have enough funds that they can run for a few years without shutting down operations, and it's possible that as they innovate over those years, they may get new investors and all of that. So it's probably like ChatGPT would go through certain tough times if the AI bubble comes to a close, but it would probably be able to most probably it will just tide over those times. But smaller companies which use these services may not be able to do that. They may not have enough investor money to tide over that jump that may come on the inference side, because they would need to hike their prices and they may lose customers. And till the time people get adjusted to the mindset that okay, AI costs much more than what we are paying for today, they may have to shut down. They may not have funds to run their company. So on the other side, where you have these companies which are strongly dependent, or they price themselves, or they price their services very competitively based on the cost of inference. These companies are at risk of this AI bubble coming to a close. So in general, I hope we have discussed several aspects. The AI bubble per se would boil down mainly to this hidden cost of inference across these companies. There are many other factors which we can get into when discussing the AI bubble per se, the hype and the overrepresentation, all of that. But the core aspect would be this. So yeah, thank you.